This isn't just a podcast, it's a movement. The Middle Ground Mic is fighting for truth and unity. Subscribe now or support us today. Links are in the notes. Stand with us. America's on edge. The government's shut down. Federal workers are being fired. And the Middle East is holding its breath under a fragile ceasefire. And the president has once again just threatened a 100% tariff on China. But here's the thing, you're not going to get the truth from any of those partisan screen shows. That's why you're here. This is the Middle Ground Mic, where the outrage ends and the conversation begins. If you're tired of politics being a short sport instead of a solution, hit subscribe right now. Sign up for our free newsletter at themiddlegroundmic.com/newsletter and get real stories before they matter. Every week we bring you the truth behind the headlines, from shutdowns to ceasefires, without the spin, without the travel talking points, and without selling out. And if you believe in what we're building, support us directly at Buzzsprout or on PayPal, because this platform runs on you. No left, no right, just forward. Now, let's find the middle. We start right here at home. The government shutdown is now on day 12. This time, it's not just paychecks, it's jobs. The administration has ordered mass layoffs, something we haven't seen since the Reagan era. The American Federation of Government Employees says these firings violate federal labor laws and existing union contracts. This isn't just a shutdown, it's a shutdown and a showdown between the government and its own people. The White House claims it's cutting non-essential bureaucracy. Critics call it a union-busting tactic. And caught in the middle are thousands of families wondering how they're going to pay rent, buy groceries, and keep their homes and keep the electricity on. But here's the reality. Federal workforce does need reform. But you don't fix inefficiency with fear. You fix it with leadership and accountability. There's also a quiet and dangerous conversation in Washington that the president could invoke the Insurrection Act of 1807 to deploy the National Guard in U.S. cities if protests break out. When the politics of this kind of stuff turns into power plays, democracy turns into a weapon. And that's where we are, and it's only week 2. We need them to do better. We need them to come to the middle, come to the common ground, and find solutions that work for the everyday people, and return some of this stuff to the states and give them the resources to take care of it on their own. Let's talk a little bit about the Gaza ceasefire. I've had a lot of criticisms of how that stuff has gone in the past, especially of Benjamin Netanyahu. But they're saying now the trucks are finally rolling in under a ceasefire deal brokered personally by President Trump, according to Al Jazeera. The truce includes a hostage exchange between Israel, Palestinian groups, and so far it seems to be holding. Thank God for everybody involved. But peace doesn't necessarily mean stability. Reports from the BBC say Hamas fighters are still clashing with local clans in Palestine as they reassert control over devastated neighborhoods. Even in peace, Gaza can't find stability because power never really left the barrel of a gun. Some commentators call this Trump's first major foreign policy win. Others say the same programs funding this aid, UNRWA and USAID, were gutted by his administration. So what's the middle ground? I don't think you can say whether there is middle ground here or not. He did the right thing in getting a peace deal done. Regardless of the other circumstances, there's peace. People are going to stop dying. We're going to get some sort of normalcy for the people in Gaza and for the Israeli citizens that just want to go back to their everyday life without having to think about it. Without having to worry about, is Hamas going to attack us today from Palestine? And the Palestinians not having to worry, is Israel going to drop a bomb on us today while we're going to the doctor or buying food to eat? Real peace doesn't come from photo ops. It comes from rebuilding trust brick by brick and truth by truth. For the families returning to Gaza City, amidst all this destruction, chaos, and despair, no electricity, no schools, the ceasefire isn't victory, it's survival. But there is hope. There is hope for the people in Gaza and Palestine for the first time in a couple of years. And where that hope is coming from? It's coming from Israel seeming to wanting to back off. And the international community is ready to step in and help Gaza get back on its feet, as well as the Palestinian people. And that is hope. That's hope for the future. And that's hope that we can create a long-term peaceful solution with this. because that's what the world needs. The world needs a shining example. President Trump, Vladimir Putin, let's look at this situation and see if we can find something similar to do for the Ukrainian war, because that's important too. People are still dying over there every single day. Russia seems to be holding its ground and not backing off. On Wall Street, a single True Social post just moved trillions of dollars. Once again, President Trump has threatened 100% tariffs on all Chinese imports, sending shockwaves through global markets. The Dow dropped 600 points and then rebounded after he followed up with clarity soon. Mr. President, you should have clarity when you're saying that to begin with. And you know that. You're not dumb. Clarity is important. It creates stability in the markets and stability for your citizens and their ability to pay their bills and to know what's coming possibly tomorrow. You know, the economists are warning. These tariffs could be retaliatory. You know, spiking consumer prices just as the economy starts to slow down. We've been here before. The 2018 tariff wars supposedly cost us 0.5% of GDP and raised prices on everyday goods by about 3%. The middle ground, America needs supply chain independence, not isolation. I think that we need a little bit of both. You have to have a transition phase. You can't just cut it off all at once. Let's come up with a transition phase, lay it out. Let's find something that can work for both sides, but it needs to be a transition. It can't just be one way or the other, because all that does is that hurts the middle class, and it does not help anybody that is not rich. It's not a zero-sum game. It's a leadership test. You can protect jobs and preserve stability, approaching it with some common sense. We still need certain things from China and from other Asian countries while we transition to having more manufacturing at home. Don't be a bonehead and get rid of it all immediately. All you're doing is hurting people and protecting the wealthy here that can afford to ride out the storm while charging higher prices. It's despicable. We got to do better. The shutdown doesn't help us either. The shutdown's going to drive inflation up. People don't think it will, but it's going to drive uncertainty, which is going to drive prices up. Half a world away, there's been a coup attempt in Madagascar. Madagascar President Andre Rajoelina, I think that's how you say it, says he survived an attempted military coup after soldiers joined protests and clashed with the loyalist forces. They're saying at least 30 to 40 people are dead and parts of the capital are remaining contested, so it is still ongoing. I pray for the peaceful solution to all of this there. I don't know the country, don't know the politics there that well, but I imagine people are dying. And I hope that that country can come to some sort of resemblance of stability and normalcy before things go too much further. You know, while Americans over here are fighting for budgets and fighting over budgets, Madagascar is fighting for democracy and peace and being able to live. France and the African Union are monitoring the situation extremely close, and I think we should be helping France in any way we can, aside from sending our own troops in and too much money. Because instability here in Madagascar could trigger wider unrest across Africa's Indian Ocean corridor, which spells disaster for everybody doing business in the region, including international players like us in Europe. A reminder that democratic fatigue is contagious and it's spreading fast. Because people feel like they're being left behind, not just in Madagascar. They're feeling that way in Europe. Mexico City now is having uprisings about too much tourists. China, Japan, Africa, obviously, the Middle East. Uprisings, whether it's by force, whether it's political, protesting uprisings, they're happening more and more because people feel like they're being left behind. They don't feel like they have a solid tomorrow like they had 5-10 years ago. You know, we have to do better. You know, let's talk a little bit about some stuff here in America. You know, there's heartbreak in St. Helena Island in South Carolina, where a bar shooting has left 4 dead and over 20 injured. Police say multiple shooters opened fire after an argument, a scene that's become tragically familiar in America. Alcohol and weapons do not belong in a public place like that. I'm not saying take away Second Amendment rights, not one bit. But we have to hold ourselves and our fellow citizens more accountable. If you know a friend that is drinking, that sometimes may do stupid things, and you know they have a gun, you should try your best to get them away from it. Or get that gun away from them, I should say, because you could be saving someone's life, including theirs and your own, and possibly a random bystander. We have to do better. We have to do better with gun rules. And I think not just necessarily the rules, I misspoke there, with holding one another accountable. Because in a lot of these situations, people know that these people have weapons. They know that something's been planned to a degree. Someone does. Step up. Stop being afraid. Be true to yourself. Push the issue. Stop accepting people shooting innocent people, especially over an argument. Shooting someone over a simple argument is shooting an innocent. I'm sorry. It just is. You know, in Asia, a little bit of tension again. In India and Pakistan on the border, Pakistan has claiming to have captured Afghan mannered border posts. Though Afghanistan seems to deny it, these flashpoints may seem unrelated, but they're not. They're all signs of a planet and a world community that's on edge, where even the small sparks can cause global fires, I should say, among us politically and socially. JD Vance had a crazy interview recently. Check it out. I don't want to spoil it for you. We've talked a lot about, the tariffs with China before. I still feel like we're playing too much back and forth, loose with it. We need to go to China and we need to say it's a 400, like Kevin O'Leary said. I'll still call it the Kevin O'Leary effect, and I'll keep saying it repeatedly. And I will not stop saying it. Well, we need to go the Kevin O'Leary method. Slap a 400% immediately on China. Everything coming out of China, even if it's someone looking at the screen. That's far joking, but that's where we need to go. Make Xi Jinping come to the table. Make him come to Washington. If we're going to go that route, go all the way. Make sure that we win, because all it's doing right now with this back and forth, it's dragging it out for years and years and raising prices even more, and it's not helping the American people. We need to come to a resolution on this. In a week like this, shutdowns, ceasefires, coups, it's easy to feel like everything's coming apart. But here's the truth. Division is profitable. Fear sells fast, and nuance doesn't trend. But that's why the middle ground mic exists. To question both sides, to dig into facts, and to remind America that truth doesn't need a team. In the middle, we don't escape the chaos, we face it together. If you want real analysis, not algorithm-fed outrage, stay with us. Subscribe now at themiddlegroundmic.com. Sign up for our newsletter on the website. And go to our Buzzsprout link. Support the podcast, donate, do what you can so we can go further and we can push this even faster. Because this isn't about clicks, it's about clarity. This isn't about outrage, it's about understanding. No left, no right, just forward. This is the Middle Ground Mic, America's conversation, covering the world redefined.